Obama says Iraq airstrike effort could be long-term. So the war never ended there. Now it's back on for the foreseeable future. And again, what is behind that? IS was set up for the last 4 years, given billions of dollars in eastern Syria by Turkey, by Israel, by Saudi Arabia, by Qatar, by NATO, by France, by the British, and by the United States on record. You can just pull up hundreds of articles in the New York Times and even in the Council on Foreign Relations admitting that 60+% of the fighters were Islamic State. And then our media would be like, well, that's why we need to get behind the nice fighters that only blow up the churches. They don't, and only cut off the men's heads and rape the women. They don't kill the babies. And then the Al-Qaeda people, they even behead the children of the Christians and of the Sunnis, not the Shia. I mean, the Shia, not the Sunnis. And so they just play on your incredible ignorance and the general public's ignorance. They think that the people that are uninformed just have no idea what's even going on and can't find the Middle East if the countries even had names on them. And so now people ask, well, why is Obama bombing IS? Because they don't completely control it. They just funded it, helped radicalize it, gave it basis. IS is now even attacking Jordan, which helped arm them and train them probably more than any other country when it came to physical bases. Our military was made to tolerate IS bases on the border in the last 3+ years with Syria, with Iraq. Turkey has given artillery support and shelled the military of Syria that has been fighting them for 3+ years. And that's why a bunch of military officers in the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy all went public last year when we were going to bomb openly the Syrian capital and Syrian power plants and water treatment and military bases and airports so that Al-Qaeda could take over. It was a big backlash. It stunned the globalists, completely confused them. Bilderberg was beside itself from our sources. This is one of the main topics, how to spin it. And they decided to spin it by rebranding as ISIS, then as IS. They'll probably rename it a couple more times to then confuse everybody and sheep dip Al-Qaeda. And then we pointed out they would then come into Iraq when they started attacking 4 months ago in Fallujah. Our military was not allowed to strike back when their convoys came in by the hundreds of vehicles per convoy. When the artillery was moved in, they were allowed to set up their states so they can't be kicked out. But now they've got to be contained when they try to go into Shiite areas in the east and south and into Kurd areas in the north. I did a special report on this Friday that's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com titled Obama's Bombing of IS is a Hoax. And I want to retweet that at Real Alex Jones right now so folks can send that on to your friends and family. It's a 15-minute video, and it breaks down everything that's happening in that video with the documents, with the proof, even with the mainstream news articles. So that's what's happening currently on that front. Obama says Iraq airstrike effort could be long-term, and that's only to bomb them when they try to go into Kurdish areas to the north or when they try to go into southeasterly areas in the east that are Shiite and Iranian controlled. This is the criminal breakup of Iraq and the areas mainly where the Christians lived in the traditionally central areas and western areas will now be expunged, and the mass murder will continue. And you won't see any rioting by Christians, be they black or white or Hispanic, across the U.S., burning down grocery stores like we're seeing in Ferguson, Missouri, because hundreds of thousands of Christians have and will be now slaughtered. Have been and are going to be. Of course, what would you burn down to protest the fact that our government's arming people and protecting people to murder Christians and only now bombing them because they're killing Kurd minorities, about 10,000 of them, hiding up on a mountain, which I'm all for bombing ISIS, by the way. You notice I'm only for bombing people the globalists created and are protecting. I'm never for bombing any of these countries. I'm never for attacking Libya, never for attacking Syria, never for getting involved with trying to overthrow the Egyptian government and put Al-Qaeda basically in charge, the Muslim Brotherhood. See, the globalists are for the toppling of all those regimes. I was against it. Now, they didn't want to bomb ISIS when their convoys were pouring in 4 months ago, because then they could have been taken out easily. Now that they're in place, you'll have a few bombings of some old broken artillery and, you know, to basically send the message, hey, don't come here in the backs of your Toyotas with your 50 calibers and your Stinger missiles or we'll bomb you. See how sick that is? A message from ISIS to the U.S. Islamist militants tweet gruesome images of dead American soldiers and vow to blow up U.S. embassies as terrorist convoy is wiped out in second round of airstrikes. But only teaching them you don't get the Kurd oil. Basically, Europe's agreed to get that third. And then Saudi Arabia and others, they get the West. The Iranians get the East and part of the South. See, this is a deal to break the country up. And so ISIS is being told, no, 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 no. You can kill all the Christians you want and all the Muslim minorities you want. You just can't go into the Kurd areas, okay? Think about how sick that is. And you're not going to hear a word at your glitterbug church, your big mega church about this week when you go to church. Clinton blames Islamic militants' rise on Obama, French news agency. Hillary Clinton came out and basically said she liked George Bush 2 weeks ago on CNN. Now she's saying she wouldn't have open borders like Obama's doing. Now she came out and said, well, you know, we don't need too much more gun control. Pure baloney. She runs Obama. Clintons run Obama on record. So this is pure mindless positioning for moron, yellow dog, Ku Klux Klan, Southern Democrats who want their welfare checks to go vote for Hillary. That's how dumb they think you are. Here's another one. Hillary Clinton, failure to help Syrian rebels led to the rise of ISIS. That's right. Remember, they said we need to have air bombing campaigns of the Syrian forces or Al-Qaeda will get a training base in Syria and take over the Middle East. While they were through the Turkish ambassador from Benghazi, who was there that day, giving the heavy weapons, the artillery, the Stinger missiles, the TOW missiles, the Chinese red arrows, all of it. Anything the CIA could buy. Hundreds of thousands of machine guns bought from the U.S., sent over there, just everything. Then they think you're so dumb now, oh, we didn't topple Assad. That's why Al-Qaeda's doing this. Oh, I'm sure Al-Qaeda would have been, you know, not bad at all if they would have got serious. See, they need them to get a country. So they're making a new country for them to now terrorize everything, attack the U.S., hijack jets, blow up embassies, kill our military to keep the war going. See how that works? Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. A servile population will be slaves. A cowardly population will be the property, the vassals of others. And in this tyranny that we live in, they will even steal our consciousness, our free will. So Hillary Clinton says that Obama didn't do enough to hand Syria over to the rebels who were mainly al-Qaeda. And so because he didn't give enough to al-Qaeda, that's the reason now al-Qaeda's changed its name and taken over much of Iraq and is now running around wildly murdering everybody. I have photos here today of small children holding up people's heads that have been chopped off in Iraq. And again, this has all been part of a strategic plan to shut down any sovereign nation that is sustainable. The globalists want to do the very same stuff here. They just can't get away with it yet. Hillary Clinton, failure to help Syrian rebels led to rise of ISIS. That's right. And then they give all this twisted logic explaining it. And people read the New York Times and think they're real smart, or read the Atlantic and, oh, you read the New York Times? Oh, you're an intellectual. Laura Ingraham has come out and said Iraq is worse off now than under Saddam Hussein. Yeah, so why did you support the bipartisan Republicans and Democrats toppling Hussein in 1991 and then in 1999 with the Clintons bombing, and then in 2003, and then his capture in 2007, on and on and on. She says after 11 years, Iraq is worse off and that Obama's doing a terrible job. No, he's not. But I appreciate you telling part of the truth, Laura. You're a smart lady. She's been around a long time. Wasn't she in the Reagan administration? She's getting ready to run for office. I'd like to be able to support somebody like her. She's good on guns and taxes and things, but really bad on warmongering. Did any of these wars turn out good for anybody? Our troops, our country, we're in debt, and we got a dead million Iraqis plus, and that's on our name until we repent of it. The Iraqis were some of the most pro-Western people in the whole Middle East, folks, until we screwed them over for more than 2 decades. And both political parties and the political class are behind it, and now they're breaking the country in 3 parts again, giving Saudi Arabia a third, Iran a third, and basically the EU a third. And we all paid for it. That's what a joke this country's become. Oh, look at this headline out of the Washington Post so intellectuals can read it and learn about things. Fighters abandoning al-Qaeda affiliations to join Islamic State. U.S. officials say, you mean IS and ISIS are like an al-Qaeda, a new name? Oh, my. Oh, that is very intellectual. We told you day one when all this started, really about 8 months ago when they started taking Fallujah, but 4 months ago when they dubbed themselves ISIS, that it was al-Qaeda being globalist, funded, and directed. Again, think of how sensationally evil that is. And the public is so confused that I have so-called intellectuals stop me on the street, or I talk to their talk show hosts and they're like, yeah, I really think we ought to be bombing ISIS, Alex. Yes, they're really bad. Why are you criticizing Obama? He's finally doing something. I thought you didn't like those people. Meanwhile, I've been telling people about it before it even started. Yes, I want to bomb ISIS. I want them all dead. Every stinking last one of them. They are a bunch of murdering, psychopathic, child-killing scum. But who's more evil? The crazy al-Qaeda, ISIS people, where you don't get to join their club unless you're totally out of your mind? So the most radical becomes the leader? Or the globalists that have been protecting and funding them and giving them weapons since 1979, was Zbigniew Brzezinski. And then the next administration of Ronald Reagan, and then George Herbert Walker Bush, and then Clinton, and then Bush, and now Obama. That's what's evil, is the corporate globalist interest that are creating full spectrum dominance, where they dump out a whole hive of wasp or hornets into your house, and then they show up, knock on the door 5 minutes later when you've run out of your house. Or they come in your backyard and go, want to go back in your house? I'm a hornet killer. pay me and I'll go take the hornets out. So he goes in, gets some of the hornets, kills a few, puts them back in another hive, goes to the next neighbor, sticks them in there. I mean, it's the same deal, ladies and gentlemen.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Famous race car drivers with shock video running over and killing another driver. No criminal charges imminent. Stewart threatened to run over driver 2 years ago following wreck. And, when it's pretty obvious, you notice they don't arrest people. But then when an ESPN host admits he hit his girlfriend once when she hit him years ago, he gets suspended. See, Nerf gun in your backyard, you're suspended from school, even though there's no law or regulation saying they can do that. Or, you had a leaking sprinkler, so $700 fines. But, you run somebody over in front of everybody, and you're this big race car driver icon, well, nothing happens, see? It's all about stuff that's for the general public or people that haven't actually done something wrong. That's what this globalism, political correctness is all about. All over the country, superintendents are freaking out over, quote, asinine, we don't have enough teachers, and now we have to hire food police. That's out of the newspaper, egannews.org, where in Atlanta, Georgia, they're not allowed to have any type of cake or ice cream or bake sales now under federal rules. Since when did the feds tell Atlanta, Georgia they couldn't have bake sales? Since when do private schools? My children were going to a Christian private school, one of the best in Austin, 2 years ago. Very nice people, but they had days twice a year where it was food and video shown of Michelle Obama telling you what to eat, or they didn't get accreditation. This is the brainwashing that we're under in this country. That's just some of the news that's coming up. I want to take your phone calls. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. First-time callers, 800-259-9231. What do you make of the bombing of ISIS? I'm all for bombing ISIS so they don't take over the Kurdish areas of northern Iraq, one-third of the nation. But they were allowed to come in and were not bombed when they were taking over major cities in the West and major oil fields in the last 6-8 months, calling themselves ISIS the last 4, and allowed to even advance up to Baghdad because they've now been given that area as a permanent state to then carve out half of Syria is the new country, Islamic State. And our government helped him do that. That was the admitted Pentagon plan under Brzezinski and others. Wesley Clark talked about it 5 years ago, to take over those countries, 8 of them, and then break them all in 2 to 4 pieces. 2, 3, or 4 pieces. And again, it's to sow destabilization. They're not breaking Iraq in 3 pieces. I've seen CNN go, well, we'll probably partition the country in 3 pieces down the road. Iraq was never supposed to be a country anyways, and all the pseudo-intellectuals go, yeah, so I guess it's okay. No, it's not okay. You get rid of the stabilizing central government. It brings people electricity and water. After 20-plus years of siege and war and over 1 million dead Iraqis conservatively, and this mass war crime the West has committed against them. Saudi Arabia attacks us reportedly on 9/11, so we attack Iraq. On and on and on and on. Because Iraq's the key country in the middle of Jordan and Syria and Lebanon and Israel, all bordering it, and Iran and Russia and Turkey. It's right in the middle, so the globalists want to control it so they can build proxy armies in it to just absolutely destabilize everything. I mean, it makes me want to vomit. And I want to get off that subject. I've got like 12 stacks, 14 stacks of news over here. I don't know, I covered 1 stack. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Document cam shot. I just said 12. I always say 12. But people think I exaggerate. I normally underestimate. So I had a bunch more stacks than I said. Okay? Just stacks everywhere. Look at all these stacks. Just In fact, do a wide shot. There's too many stacks. I mean, there are just stack upon stack upon stack upon stack upon stack. All more insane than the last. And I haven't even gotten to your calls yet. Here's another headline. Crucified by the caliphate monsters. Remember Glenn Beck used to warn folks about the caliphate and MSNBC made fun of him? We would warn folks about the West funding it as well. We would get made fun of. Oh, calls itself the caliphate. Iraq descends into apocalypse as Islamic State fanatics seize towns and tell terrified minority Muslims, by noon today, we will kill all of you. What nice people. And then Obama can pose as the savior after being right in the middle of the West, creating and funding these people, creating this new conglomerate, and then he can now grandstand and do... I saw the footage. They didn't show crisp, up-close, infrared gun footage. They showed blown out where you couldn't tell what was happening, and I didn't even look like artillery they were bombing. I mean, there's thousands of pieces of artillery they've captured from those Iraqi bases, and they show 2 pieces of artillery being blown up. Or they show a couple trucks being blown up. I mean, I don't even think they're bombing any of these guys. They're letting them get strong, take over Iraq, a third of Iraq, build up their command base, and go smashing back into Assad. And then Hillary says, oh, yes, we've got to bomb Assad to stop them. I mean, that's how dumb they think we are. I mean... It is just total Twilight Zone. So I'm done talking about that. I want to go to your phone calls. But first, this story is so huge. I'm going to talk about this with Chuck Baldwin. Remember 6 years ago, we got the secret documents from state police officer in Missouri. And then we were able to get another document a week later from a federal marshal. And to show how bad the surveillance is in this country, they found out who the state police guy was, and he got in trouble. It later blew over. And he since got promoted. So that's a message about doing the right thing. He got in trouble at first, but admired by people later. And in my experience, I didn't do all this because I knew I'd win. I did it because my instinct was fight tyranny. But I always get heat when I do the right thing from the world, from the media, from the system at first. But as soon as you go through that fire, when you do it for the right reasons, you generally get rewarded on the other side, folks. When you give in to evil, you end up getting rewarded up front, but hurt later. Isn't that what the Bible says? Do evil, you get rewarded up front, get hurt later. Do the right thing, get hurt up front, get rewarded later. That's just weird logic, but that's how it works. But the reason I mention that is it shows the surveillance, folks. They went and found out where he had faxed it to me and went and sent people in, FBI. 2 weeks later, they called him in front of his, because he was a supervisor. He was mid-level. And then here came the FBI saying, why did you send that to Alex Jones? But with the federal marshal, he knew how to send it to us. Snail mail, wearing gloves in case they were to come and grab it. Snail mail, wearing gloves, and you just put a different address, one that's not yours, on the envelope. Just like Matt Drudge said, you got to meet in parking garages. And back when NSA people and high-level telecom engineers would meet me, they would never tell me they were coming. They wouldn't stalk me. They would find out where I lived, or they would be waiting in the parking lot, or they would come to a public event I was at, and then sit in the parking lot waiting, and then give it to me. And they'd be wearing a hat on top of it, folks, because of face scanning cameras. And they would say, wait a few weeks till you report on this. And then they would drive off again in their brand new Suburban or their brand new Mercedes. Because these were all senior people that would give me all the intel before anybody else had it. And I didn't mean to run off into a rabbit trail. It's just when I see a headline like this, I have flashbacks to the fact that we broke all this. Remember 8 years ago, the preacher that gave us the secret clergy response team documents? He faxed that from one of those mailbox places. mailbox, etc. type places. And we posted the documents where they had hired most of the preachers in the country to work for the FBI or the CIA, and even given them brainwashing manuals, the big mega churches, name it and claim it, how to condition and manipulate the public. But even small churches have it, and to give them faith-based initiative money. It started under Bush, but accelerated under Obama. And they came in a week later to the hospital where he was an administrator. He had a church on the side, pretty good-sized church, and said, we're going to get you fired from the hospital. And they got him fired from the hospital for separately giving us those documents. I mean, what an evil government, ladies and gentlemen, for letting you know what Obama now says publicly. Obama says extremist ideology that's taken over the GOP, balkanization of the media, has blocked my agenda. Yeah, what did Clinton say in the White House documents that came out a few months ago from his library that they were able to get through FOIA request, the Western Journalism Center, Joseph Farah, that we can't let the public ever have their own media. We got to discredit any media that isn't controlled by us, calling them conspiracy theorists. And he goes on to say that radicals have taken over the Republican Party and that they're basically extremists and that they're the biggest threat to the country. We'll see what Homeland Security says. They're preparing with the tanks, with the armor, with the police for war against the people that want to save this nation. You understand that? And they're going to blow stuff up and blame it on us just as sure as the sun came up. We're trying to stop them by exposing their game plan, folks. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. This is really happening. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield, true nascent iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com.